are to wait until the president is fired upon to return fire. Is this like real? Like, this is from a real reporter, by the way. This is, Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics. She has a source who says the Secret Service's rules of engagement are only shoot someone if you're being shot.
What?
9 figures, 3 sets of numbers with 2 commas. So smallest amount of money they're donating, $100 million, which was created by you and the media, which was instigated by the feds, with dozens crawling all over the place from the FBI, HSI, and many other agencies. Interesting story saying that Democrats were trying to seed a narrative after the Trump assassination attempt. You see, the article comes from Semaphore. Something interesting happened here. Seems like they got on an email chain that maybe they shouldn't have had access to. Some people were trying to respond to this. We know how Democrats act. They create narratives to try to distort the truth. And so here the story tells us that top Democrat strategists pushed reporters to consider this as a staged shooting. And who could possibly be behind the staging? You guessed it, my friends. It's gonna be the Russians. Here's the scoop. Top political advisor to the Democratic mega donor, Reid Hoffman, who has funded the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Trump and who has shown up in the Epstein case many times, suggested that the attack on Donald Trump could have been staged. Reid Hoffman, even as Hoffman was criticized for joking before Saturday's attack about Trump becoming a martyr. He joked at last week's billionaire confab in Sun Valley. He says, I wished I had made Trump an actual martyr. But then on Sunday, after the assassination attempt, he said, I wasn't referring to actually shooting and killing the man. Now, the scale of Hoffman's political donations isn't public, but the political advisor said in a recent private conference call, he said, Reid and I have invested 9 figures of our own money to prevent Trump from getting back into office. 9 figures, 3 sets of numbers with 2 commas. So smallest amount of money they're donating, $100 million. A lot. Now, after Semaphore published the story, Melhorn, the guy who's advising Reid Hoffman, apologized, saying that he drafted that without consultation from team members or allies, right? So Semaphore just published it. Now watch this. In an email that came out on Saturday at 7:34 p.m. that appeared to be addressed to sympathetic journalists, which was also sent to Semaphore, which is not going to be sympathetic. So Melhorn, right, late at night on Saturday, he's sending this email to a bunch of journalists. This guy who has 9 figures of political backing behind him in terms of money through Reid Hoffman, emails a bunch of journos. This is the truth of what's happening here. And he writes one possibility in his email, and he thinks that Semaphore maybe is not on the list or it accidentally gets sent to them, but he thinks it's all a bunch of friendlies. He says, one possibility which feels horrific and alien and absurd in America, but is quite common globally, is that this, quote, shooting was encouraged and maybe even staged so Trump could get the photos and the benefit from the backlash, right? We predicted this yesterday. Clear. Watch this. This is a classic Russian tactic, such as when Putin killed 300 civilians in 1999 and blamed it on terrorists to ride the backlash to winning power. See that? These people are nuts. But this is a classic Russian tactic. He should have said this has all the hallmarks of a classic Russian operation, like the 51 intelligence people, saying others who have embraced this tactic of committing raw evil and then benefiting from the backlash includes Hamas. If any Trump officials encouraged or knew of this attack, that is morally horrific, and Republicans of decency must demand, watch, that Trump step down as unfit. So Trump staged him getting shot in the head. Yeah, just get close. Just hit it right here. No, not right here. No. Not over here, okay? Because if you go too far out here, I'm not going to bleed. I need you to make me bleed. But if you go over here, though, my brain's going to be exploded. So you understand what you need to do? Yes, sir, I understand. Okay, great. Wild. Now, the other possibility that Melhorn wrote is that some crazy anti-Trumper in this chaotic moment decide to assassinate Trump. Yeah, just some crazy person. He also co-founded the fund called Investing with USA with Hoffman. Melhorn made clear his impulse toward the false flag theory. He says, I know I'm prone to bias on this, but this is a classic Putin play. And given the facts, it seems more plausible. Look at the actual shot. Look at the staging. Look at how ready Trump is to the rally. This pampered baby, he says, poops his pants when an eagle lunged at his food. Look how quickly Trump protects himself at the expense of others, but showed few of those lifelong instincts in this moment. And consider how often Putin makes his allies run this play. Guy's a lunatic, an absolute demented lunatic. He continued, I know it feels yucky to discuss such a possibility, but in this case, the odds are so high and the stakes are so consequential that we must ask the question. He wrote that he was disappointed that journalists were not already raising the possibility of a fake shooting. He says, ask the question, people. If it proves wrong, we should respond appropriately to a non-staged act of political violence as outlined above. But your credibility and our entire system of truth and justice depends on being certain of the answer. Now, so he sends this email. They publish it. Melhorn said in a response to a follow-up question that his words were not a public statement. So this dude just accidentally copied Semaphore on it, and Semaphore published this article. Now, you'll notice the rest of the media was also trying to frame this. You don't have to be a genius, and you don't have to wait hours to learn that it was a shooting, okay? You don't have to be like a private investigator or smarter than Jake Tapper, okay? It's pretty, even Jake Tapper should be able to figure it out. I don't know if he was able to or not, but even he should figure it out. Here's the Washington Post. They have the photo and the video of Trump with blood on his face, and their headline is, Trump escorted away after loud noises at the Pennsylvania rally. Here's NBC. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at the Pennsylvania rally. It's like, well, even if it's in the first 5 minutes, you maybe say suspected gunshots, right? That would be more accurate. Popping noises? You think these were bottle rockets? He's got blood on his face. You got this one. Trump removed from the stage by Secret Service after loud noise startles the former president. Yeah, a gunshot will do that. And ABC, same thing, right? All these people are copy pasters, as we mock them all the time here regularly because they're idiots. You just copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. So somebody said loud noises, libs of TikTok, clip that one. Saw the same thing here from this fella here. This is from Inverse Kramer, not Jim Cramer. New York Times saying the same thing. Trump rushed off the stage after chaos at the rally the next day. It was an assassination attempt, you maniacs. It wasn't chaos. They tried to assassinate him with a bullet to the brain. Dishonest lunatics. All right, so we now know that the media will do everything it can to blame the other side. ABC News' Martha Raddatz says, you know, Trump's supporters are probably responsible for a lot of this. And I was thinking about this earlier. No matter what Trump does, every time he opens his mouth, something bad happens. Haven't you noticed this? If he speaks, he's either going to incite an insurrection or get himself assassinated. No matter what he says, someone's gonna die. It's either gonna be someone else or himself, or maybe it's a judge that they make up. No one knows. But every time he speaks, someone dies, even if it's Trump. Trump's even getting himself shot. Unbelievable.
Also, George, we have to point out, no matter who the shooter, what the shooter's motives were, no matter who the shooter is, you are going to hear conspiracy theories going forward.
No question about that. But as one of those statements from J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Well, absolutely, George. We were just looking back this morning at some of the things that former President Trump has said. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. He said he was partly joking and that was taken out of context. But those are indeed his words. And you have heard it from supporters as well. And supporters are certainly in some parts angry. And let's remember January 6th in so many ways for the campaign.
Which was created by you and the media, which was instigated by the feds, with dozens crawling all over the place from the FBI, HSI, and many other agencies. Trump wanted 10,000 national security there. You didn't have that. Muriel Bowser denied the request.
January 6th will probably be in the background after yesterday's event. This is a very difficult time for this campaign. I'm sure this week in Milwaukee that President Trump will highlight this, and President Biden is going to have to figure out how to go forward with his campaign and what exactly they say.
Martha Raddatz, thanks very much. Let's bring
the worst of the worst, these people. So New York Times also posted this one this morning. There's like zero even opportunity for grace at all. You can see what the print edition of the New York Times is running with this morning, saying he failed the test of leadership and betrayed America. So that's just incredible, right? It's like, wow, maybe they should shoot him again, I guess, since he betrayed America. You want to just like shoot him again, or what do you guys want to do about that? Like, what's your problem? So Joe Biden also said stuff similar, right? Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. Genuine. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything that America stands for. Everything. So if somebody should, I don't know, maybe shoot him, I guess. I don't know. What do you want? Sounds like stochastic encouragement of violence. It sounds like incitement to violence, doesn't it? Maybe the FBI will investigate them. I doubt it. Now, this was a weird one. This came over from Destiny. I gotta tell you, at least this one's honest. The person in the crowd cheering for and supporting a traitor to this country caught astray. I'm so sad, please. Dude's dead, right? So I don't know if he's disavowed this or deleted this or what, but at least it's honest, okay? AOC comes out and says, I wish him a speedy recovery. Nancy Pelosi comes out, I hope he gets well soon. Liz Cheney and all these other people, let's calm down the political violence. No, they want him dead. They talk about it. Joe Biden, he's danger to the democracy. He's going to take away your freedoms. Somebody who's coming to take away my freedoms and wreck American democracy, I'm not like wishing them well, wishing them a speedy recovery, to be honest with you. DC Drano also posted this, says, y'all remember when Alex Soros posted this? Yeah, we do. We talked about it here. Remember Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, said last year the crime and inflation crisis largely evaporated. So did the leading theories about what caused them, and he posted a whole thing. But you'll notice he also shared this. It was a bullet hole and some cash, which when you add them up, amount to 47. So a bullet hole for 47. A bullet hole for Trump. Well, Trump got one right in the head. So here is another one, right? Remember people like Jeff Bezos? Yesterday we were sharing their post. He said, our former president showed tremendous grace and courage under literal fire tonight. So thankful for his safety and so sad for the victims and their families, right? And, you know, I'm sure Jeff Bezos doesn't have a lot of real interest or care about what the Washington Post is doing. Seems like he's a lot more interested in his new lady friend. But they posted this. This one came over from Mostly Peaceful Meme. Says, you know, Jeff, this is your newspaper. Hello. Here's an opinion piece from Mike Godwin. Obviously a part of the problem. Says, yes, it's okay to compare Trump to Hitler. Don't let me stop you. Okay, on and on and on. Our former president showed tremendous grace and courage under literal fire tonight. Yeah, and Bezos is right, but a lot of the media entities are responsible for the condition of our country. And just by the way, also, Chase Geiser, okay, he clipped this from Destiny, and he challenged him to a duel, a lawful duel, by the way, under Texas Penal Code 2206. Wow, sounds like, I wonder if he'll accept. Let's see. All right, so yeah, very curious times out there. Weird folks posting strange things. As you saw, Elon got this one right. He said CNN was reporting on the incident with Caesar. This is how CNN reported the attack on Caesar. Caesar was injured in a group hug. Just like when Trump was escorted off the stage because of some loud noises. Very interesting. Now, more reaction. Some here from Frank Luntz. He says, all right, you know Frank Luntz. He's the guy who was sharing bunk beds with Kevin McCarthy. Says, I'm getting swamped by emails from reporters and officials asking how the Trump assassination attempt will affect the election. So here's my response. He says, Saturday's shooting in Pennsylvania will still have huge impact on election day. No doubt. It will guarantee that every Trump supporter now will be a Trump supporter in November. Yes. So the foundation is hardened, right? All the concrete of the election that was still kind of being manipulated has now settled and cured. So people who were still playing the political game, who were still, well, I wonder what the second debate sounds like, and I'm going to see what his policy is on this, and I'm still curious about, no, they're done. I'm just voting Trump. I don't even need to think about it anymore. That dude is a hero. That's end of story. So it's solidified. I agree with that. In recent months, Trump has benefited more from passionate and engaged followers than the Biden campaign. Yes, this is the enthusiasm gap, the energy gap. But the shooting will turn the intensity gap into a chasm. Absolutely. I think even Megyn Kelly said she'll drag herself across broken glass to go vote for him now. Absolutely, no doubt. The participation gap is worth at least +1 or +2. And the enthusiasm, right? Who's going to show up on the polls on election day? And this is what a big problem in 2020, because COVID suppressed the day of turnout, right? It's about enthusiasm and energy. Who can get the most people activated? Trump's people are going to be activated. And because the shooting happened in Pennsylvania, the impact will be most significant in Pennsylvania. That's a great point. Pennsylvania will be hearing about this more than anybody. Maybe that's a hard red for Pennsylvania. Now, Trump's defiant pose, fist in the air as he was being led off the stage bleeding, will be the visual people remember at the polling booth when they think about 2024. Do you want America to look like this across the world? When America gets hit, do you want America standing up and looking proud and fighting back in the face of perseverance, in the face of whatever you think, Putin or China or whatever, terrorism? All right, that's what you want. That's the visual you want. The opposite visual is Joe Biden dying on a debate stage. It's not even close. And Frank Luntz is right. He says, it's hard to imagine either Biden or any of the potential Democratic candidates delivering a full-throated, crowd-pleasing attack on the former president now, taking away most of their ability to play the Trump card by labeling him a threat to democracy. It's basically gone. When he just survived a real threat to democracy. Exactly right. And the 2024 president's election is now Trump's to lose, from Frank Luntz. And I think that's a lot of people have shifted into that category. And I also think it freezes any challenges to Joe Biden. Nobody's going to want to run against Trump now. You think Gavin Newsom is going to want to come in here? Trump is like an unstoppable force. This just solidifies it. What Democratic candidate is going to go like, yeah, I'm going to run against this train right now? You have to be suicidal. You have to be nuts. nuts. You lose. You'll obviously lose. So they're just going to hand it to Joe Biden. He's going to be the fall guy. Here you go. And he'll just go down with the sinking ship. Now, Kelly Paul was responding to Nancy Pelosi. This was interesting. Wife of Rand Paul, you know who he is, was responding to Nancy Pelosi. And she said, as one of those family whose family has been the victim of political violence, because remember, her husband had that weird thing with the dude with the hammer at 2 a.m. He had that cocktail glass with him, and that dude had a hammer, and then he called the police and then didn't tell the police to come, really. Weird. Then he got hit in the head with the hammer. It was weird. I know firsthand what political violence of any kind has no place in our society. Okay, but that wasn't an assassination attempt. I thank God that former President Trump is safe. You do? Because you called him Hitler. As we learn more about details about this horrifying incident, let us pray that all those in attendance are unharmed. So she was late on the news. Someone's dead. So Kelly said, your daughter Christine, Nancy, tweeted that the lunatic who assaulted my husband Rand Paul and broke 6 of his ribs was right to attack him on the same day that Rand was literally gasping to breathe from his injuries. We also had some more reaction from Ron DeSantis. He says, Biden tells us to trust the bureaucracy to investigate the assassin's motive. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. He says, but the feds categorize the crazed leftist congressional baseball shooter as just suicide by cop. Remember that? Yeah. Even though the shooter had a well-documented left-wing political bent, made sure the players on the field were Republicans before attacking. We also had that one too. And there does need to be an investigation regarding the security protocols used in Butler. The answer to the following question must be provided in short order. How did someone armed with a rifle get on top of the roof 150 yards away from the stage? Ron speaking at the RNC. DC bureaucratic failures almost never result in any accountability. This time needs to be different. Our country is in the peril. It's in partly because the DC ruling class has consistently evaded responsibility for its failures. Josh Hawley also responded to this, says, I am now formally demanding from the Senate a full investigation by the Senate Homeland Security Committee into the massive security failure that resulted in an attempt on President Trump's life and the murder of an innocent American. Hawley says, all right, listen, Chairman Peters, Senate Homeland Security Committee. Dear Chairman, yesterday the world witnessed an attempt on Trump's life, the former president and presumptive nominee. Trump has stated he was shot in the upper part of his ear. He was nearly killed. One civilian at the Pennsylvania rally was murdered and 2 were critically injured. There is no place for this egregious violence in our republic. These events warrant an immediate, comprehensive, and public congressional investigation. Although we still do not have all the facts, the little that we do know suggests a staggering security failure. Evidently, the shooter was able to gain an elevated position on a rooftop with a clear line of sight of the president, well within accurate range, with a firearm. The details of this tragedy must be vigorously investigated by Congress, including the motive of the shooter and the serious operational failures that occurred. These matters fall squarely within our jurisdiction, and so I call on you to launch a full, public, and comprehensive committee investigation into this assassination attempt and failures to adequately protect the former president. Now, as just a reminder, the Democrats are in control of the Senate, so this is very nice politically from Josh Hawley. He's sending this over to Gary Peters, saying, it's your obligation, it's your duty now, to call this up for further inquiry. Will you do that, Chairman Peters? Will you? Do you care about assassination attempts or not? Answer, not. They're Democrats. What do they care? It's Trump. This committee investigation must include public testimony, hearings, robust oversight over the federal departments and how they responded. Sworn testimony must be heard from Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security, and Kimberly Cheadle, and nothing should be classified or withheld from the public. Our prayers are with President Trump, the family of the slain American, and the innocent civilians who were injured. We owe it to the Americans, to the victims and the American people to get to the bottom of what happened. We have questions, and the American people deserve answers. From Josh Hawley. And finally, before we hear from you, my friends, we have Speaker Johnson, who is out on the media waves today. Here is what he said in the aftermath of the assassination attempt.
It is. America awakens to a rather surreal morning. This is a horrific act of political violence that ought to be roundly condemned. Obviously, we can't go on like this as a society. You know, our prayers are with President Trump, all the rally attendees, certainly the family of the individual that lost their life and those who were injured. We have gotten briefings from law enforcement. I spoke to Secretary Mayorkas last night and asked him some pointed questions with regard to Homeland Security and what happened there. I've already announced that Congress will do a full investigation of the tragedy yesterday to determine where there were lapses in security and anything else that the American people need to know and deserve to know. But in the meantime, we've got to turn the rhetoric down. We've got to turn the temperature down in this country. We need leaders of all parties on both sides to call that out and make sure that happens so that we can go forward and maintain our free society that we all are blessed to have.
All right, so that was Mike Johnson and Congress, and they're going to be looking into this. We know the House of Representatives is controlled by the Republicans, so we expect probably some pretty quick action from them. In fact, we saw yesterday that James Comer has already sent letters out. So their committee will get moving quickly, but in the Senate, will the Democrats act? Probably not. What Josh Hawley did and what I think other senators will do, hopefully Rand Paul joins in on this, is create that wedge-ish issue. Say, Democrats, this was a national crisis that happened, almost catastrophe, and we want answers. Will you help us get them? The Democrats, of course, will turn around and say, we're not really interested in that. It's going to make them look like petty, vindictive Democrats, because that's what they are.